To me, dots and affinities are more or less the same thing. They define what you are, right? And Steve Jobs, if you have seen one of the lectures, he talks about this. Dots are somehow connected. It forms a live circuit, right? And jab ho raha hai, when it's happening, you're really not, you don't know why it's happening, and you go through that process. But when you go back and reflect out, this dot had a meaning. So the first dot, right? I failed in 8th standard. This defined me actually. This failure in 8th standard, and that too in 80s. And top it all, my parents had no clue I failed. And I realized that if I had to do something about it, if I had to survive, I had to create an inner world for me. Inner world, so strong world, not a mithyachari, right? What is mithyachari? Mithyachari is you're showing something to the outer world and you're something inner. Here I had to build something in the inner world, right, to hang in there, right? And it was something like this, that, I just felt that whatever I'm learning, I have the ability to teach anybody. That's the inner world I created, right, within myself. That became my survival, right? And that survival thing, right, still defines me. Whenever this song plays, I believe I could fly. Right? I literally created that world within me by thinking. In Tamil there is a saying, "Po sari aidum." As you go along, things will get better. Right? That's the and that thing, that survival, right, is, I think, my entrepreneurship started in that 8th standard, because entrepreneurship is all about survival. Right? Till you have to be in the marathon race, right, to survive through it, to see the light of the day, right? So it's not, after all, when the dot happened, you felt you're in a mess. You don't know why the dot had happened, right? But when you look back, this dot had a huge significance in what you are today, right? I remember 1994, 95, right? That time, nobody had computer, right? That time, nobody, you never knew there was something called coding. And I took a course called geometric modeling. The very first lecture, right, I've been given an assignment on C++. And that too, the assignment was on linked list. And that time there was no standard template libraries available. You had to build linked lists from scratch. Node create karo, dusra node connect karo. And I had no clue I had never touched a computer in my life. Till 1995, till I went there, I had never touched a computer in my life, and naturally my professor told me to drop it, right? But there is something with all we Indians, right? Because maybe it's a developing country, right? We have stood in a queue and we had fought ourselves way out, right? The survival is built into us. So I told Professor, "Nahi, I will do it. Main chhodne nahi wala hu," right? My advisor was, it was geometric. She was in, she had her own lab. Right, she had a Unix machine in the lab, and I had the whole lab for myself. Right, so next 3 months I could count, right, that how many nights I would have gone home. But that 3 months kind of taught me one thing, that 100 din mein kuch bhi koi bhi sikh sakta hai. Anybody can learn anything in 3 months, right? That was a beginning of me getting into tech. Till that time I was never a techie. Till that time I never coded, never thought that I would ever get into coding in my life, right? So this dot has that significance, that it actually transformed me to getting into technology, right? Getting into programming. So I found Amar. So when you are getting into this, when you're programming on linked list, pointers, memories, right? If you know, it's very, you really have difficulty learning it, right? You need somebody. You need somebody to be there with you, right? It cannot be your instructor, a professor, or anybody else. It needed to be somebody who is like you, right? Who's like me, who could sit with me, right? So it's journey of or learning, right? Whatever we want to, it is so important to find our own Amar, right? So this is, and when I join everything, right, you'll realize that all these things had so much of significance to what you're doing today, right? And that's what I want to emphasize here, right? All dots happen for a reason. We might not know. I might not know that finding Amar was so important, But today when I look back, I realize that yeah, if you want to do something, you have to find your Amar, right? And that helps out, right? That gets multiplied. This is a very interesting story. I was working in US in one of the largest telecom company in the world, and I was a star performer, literally a star performer, right? Because I got an award. And from there, I went to a person having no work, right? In just 6 to 12 months time frame, pura change ho gaya. And really I could not believe it, right? You know, you're a star performer, you have a team, you're working with them, everybody has recognized. How did, just because I had an indifference with my manager, how can I go without any work, right? And maybe I went through that 1 year of real struggle to understand, because, you know, this was in 2002, 2003, if you know, there was a dot-com burst there. I was not allowed to move between departments also. I was just stuck there, right? And I realized this dot gave me that, you know, I had to build my own visibility. I realized that I had to build my own identity. It cannot be so bad that you are treated as a star performer and you go and you're treated as nobody, right? And that's because I did not have an identity of my own. I was hiding behind somebody else, right? So, वो dot हुआ उधर और वो खत्म हो गया, right? The Rickshaw Ride. So I realized that only way I can create my own identity, work with a startup. I came back to India. There was a startup that I took employment in. It was in a knowledge management space. They had taken very good funding in 2000. They had taken around $50 million in funding. So they were very good startup. But 2003, if you know, there's a dot-com burst. So practically, you know, now the funding winter they talk about, you know, that where there is no funding available. Same thing happened in 2003, no funding available, right? So practically, this startup that I came to head engineering for in India, right, had actually no money to even pay my salary, right? But I wanted to stick there. You know, I'm a startup guy. You know, I'm coming from a large enterprise to work in a startup, and I feel that salary nahi liya, I'm a startup guy, right? And then I take a trip to Chennai, right? And I have a friend, from US friend, who has come back, and his startup was doing pretty well, and he was talking to Reliance leadership and a UB group leadership to sell the startup, right? And he came in a rickshaw, okay, to meet me, right? And I realized that you know, it might just feel very simple that way, but you know, for me the realization came that I was carrying this corporate paraphernalia, right? What is that? You want to have an identity, you want to satisfy your ego, right? You want to have a corner office, you want to have people reporting into you, you want to have a great designation, you want to carry all that, right? You take a flight, you stay in a 5-star hotel, you know, as you become senior, that's what you do. And you take the rental car for the whole day, right? And this guy who is as senior, having a startup, coming in a rickshaw to meet the senior more leadership and eventually selling it to the UB group, I realized that what I was thinking of not taking salary was doing a big mehermani, that being a startup, it was not that, right? It was essentially, startup is far more than that. Startup, you have to be like a mother, right? And mother is what? Mother loses her own identity for the child. And I wasn't doing that. I was maintaining my identity. I didn't care that my startup could not even pay my salary. Still I flew. Still I stayed in a 5-star. Still I took a rental car. Where was I the mother? I was not. Right? And this was a huge moment for me, realization for me, that I'm still not there. I'm still not the startup guy that I thought working in a startup made me. So I started working in a MNC company, right, after that. And I was heading product lines. I was heading the engineering there. And you know, I still had the urge that I have to do something on my own. So using few of my team members, I started building a product, right? Which my company did not know. I just wanted to present it to my, we used to have a global CTO who stays in Bay Area, visit every 3 months. So I thought that I'll present this idea. So in that 60 seconds, when I was presenting, he did not even see my demonstration. He was absolutely upset with me. He was upset that I was not aligned with what company is wanting. So my wow moment that I thought, and I had encouraged my team members to build this demoable product, all gone in 60 seconds, dikhaya bhi nahi, usne dekha bhi nahi. So that actually made me realize कि if I believe in a problem, मुझे खुद ही करना है. Right? I cannot be doing it in any umbrella. So this actually led me to do my own startup. But it was interesting. जाना था जापान, पहुंच गए चीन. So my startup was in supply chain. I identified the problem and I believed that this is a problem that I should jump into and this is a problem I should become a mother to. Interestingly, right, from my past experience, I know that anybody can learn in 100 days. So when you're doing a startup and when you're doing a SaaS startup, when you're building a platform, right, you need people, right? So, and I had not taken funding. So you need people. How do you get people, right? So I realized that, I have done it in the past, right? 100 days mein koi bhi sikh sakta hai. So I literally started, right, getting unemployed engineers. I made a deal with them that 6 months you stay with me. Neither you pay me, neither I will pay you. Simple deal hai. You stay with me, I will be your Amar. 6 mahina aap reh gaye, I'll give you experience later. That was as simple as that, right? And after 5 years of doing that startup, I realized that what I was doing, right, I started building supply chain, but I actually started solving employability problem. That was a eureka moment for me that I actually solved an employability problem. I felt that the biggest cause they are not finding tech employment is a fear of coding, right? So I created an 18-week curriculum, right? And said, ki 100 din, right? 100 days, right? You're with me, that's 4 to 5 months. You're with me, no problem, you'll get a job. 2 years I tried that. Here what happened? I failed. A lesson which is so obvious that I had to learn by my own failure is that everybody is learning for a job, right? And if you know Marie Antoinette's story, right? She is a French princess. The French Revolution is a cause for her, right? And if you know the story, right? The people were dying out of hunger. And she is a princess staying in Mahal, staying in palace. She said that if they don't have bread, let them eat cake. Kya problem hai? I felt the same. If you don't have job, learn C++. So really, right? And but here if you remember, right, I still have solved the employability problem in my previous startup Zesta. वो है, I know that the problem space exists. मैंने जो mechanism use किया वो गलत था. So I took up a job in Mumbai, right, as a CTO, right, and still that employability, how to solve the puzzle was not clear to me, right. I used to have my boss, who is the startup that I joined, right. He's an IIT, IIM graduate. His startup is already doing $20 million in revenue, right, and he's part of Mumbai Angels, right, and he would come back, tell me every other week that Narayan, apne ko kuch aisa karna hai. And this is the thing with entrepreneur. Once you're an entrepreneur, you are always an entrepreneur. One thing you believe as an entrepreneur is apna haath Jagannath. That somehow comes into you. You like it or hate it, right? That comes, so you know that you can solve the problem, right? That's the whole thing about entrepreneurship, right? And I used to think, yaar, what is this, right? What is this guy has done a successful startup? He is an IIT, IIM, कोई भी उसको funding देगा, फिर भी वो क्यों नहीं कर रहा है? If he believes in the problem, he should do it, right? And of course, I had a very good excuse for myself, right? Why I did not do it if I had a problem idea is because I have already lost 8 years without taking salary, right? So naturally, my opportunity cost is too huge to lose. And what is this problem? Then actually, a lecture from Jack Ma happened. I think most of you would have heard it, right? It's a 2-minute lecture. This 2 minutes lecture, Jack Ma talks about 20 to 30. The people who are in the age group of 20 to 30 should work with great startups. Lot of things to learn with a startup. 30 to 40, right? You should work with great companies and great people. 40 plus, like people like me, should invest on this 20 to 30 year guys. This 2-minute lecture actually solved the puzzle for me, right? A lot of people like me have ideas, know how to solve the problem, but because there's huge opportunity cost in them, they are not able to solve the problem. What if I could create an incubation lab, have few Amars there, right? And then get this unemployed engineer to work in this incubation lab along with Amar, the mentor, employment is solved, right? The puzzle got solved by that, right? So next 3 months I quit Bridge Labs, right? So that is the, and quit my startup to start Bridge Labs, right? So that is what, that's what. So when we look at it, right, if you look at the seeds of my entrepreneurship, got put way back when I was in 8th standard, that self-belief that I wanted. I knew it or not, it built that self-belief in me. The second thing that happened is that I realized I needed to create my own identity. And the third thing that happened, if you can see that Rickshaw Ride, the motherhood, and then the problem statement of employability, right? I knew it or not. And then knowing that only way I can solve this employability problem is if I give confidence in that unemployed engineer that 100% job guarantee hai, tu tension mat le, right? And some way to that guy, if I can find an Amar and give it to them, every dot had a relevance. Malum nahi tha tabhi, right? It is a circuit that is there. It is a live circuit. That's the reality, right? So final words, essentially, right? Dots has relevance, whatever you're going through. Just believe in one thing, that Tamil mein there is a saying, poha poha seriyaidu. As you go along, things will get better. So don't get too carried away with that dot, that thing that is happening. Just have that belief that it is going to, there is a purpose. And most of my dots, when I think about it, it happened because I miserably failed, or it happened because I was totally disappointed with myself, right? So that's the thought I want to leave it with. Thank you guys. Happy to be here.